All right, so welcome everybody to our new series this year, Learn About Law Services. Just an opportunity for our advocates and other folks to learn more about what each of our units do here at NASA Suffolk Law Services. So today we're going to be speaking about our two different units in Suffolk County, our Pro Bono project, our Suffolk County Pro Bono project, and our Community Legal Help project. And we have today with us Carolyn McQuaid and Rashika Hadarachi from both of those units. So just a few housekeeping. We do ask to keep your microphone muted while our presenters are presenting. I think it's okay because it's such a short presentation. If you do have a question, you can unmute yourself and just ask the question, or you can put it in the chat, or you can raise your hand and I will call on you. Just a little bit about NASA Suffolk Law Services. I'm going to go very briefly through this since this is a short presentation, but we are Long Island's largest legal services provider. We handle over 6,000 legal cases every year. We do direct representations, phone consultations, brief services. We have offices in Hempstead, Islandia, and Riverhead, and our staff includes attorneys, paralegals, social workers. And we do have partnerships with a variety of different community agencies as well. Here are our offices and our phone numbers. And just as a side note, I wasn't planning on sending out this presentation since it doesn't have a lot of legal information in it. But if you do would like a copy, feel free to email me. I'll put my email in the chat. And actually, Rashika, would you mind putting my email in the chat? Thanks so much. And we have a variety of different units. All of our units are listed on our website, which is nslawservices.org, with descriptions of all of them. But we do have a variety of different family-related units or disability and health-related projects. We do a lot of housing. We had a presentation the other day about our housing units here in Suffolk County and other areas of law, including consumer debt, veterans' rights, or public benefits, etc. And just an announcement about a new project that we just started. We have an EdCap partnerships. EdCap is the Education Debt Consumer Assistance Program, and we're partnering with Community Service Society to provide community presentations, direct representation, advice and counsel on higher education debt. So that's in both Suffolk and Nassau County. So if you have a client or yourself are dealing with higher education debt, please feel free to make a referral to our organization, and the phone number, it's our Hempstead phone number for that, although it is both Suffolk and Nassau County. And that's 516-292-8100. And of course, our legal support center for advocates is open for any advocates of nonprofit agencies, churches, religious organizations, government officials, anyone who is an advocate for a client. Feel free to give us a call if you have a question about services that we provide, or just a quick question where we can provide some legal information to you. Of course, we do host our community trainings, and we publish newsletters, and we send out emails monthly with advocacy tips. And of course, here's the QR code to our website, and we have self-help resources as well on our website. Let me get to the next page here, and just save the date. Next week, we are doing a presentation on the Dignity for All Students Act. It's an anti-bullying act in New York State, and that is on our website, which I have listed there. And also next month, we'll be having an overview of our mental health housing. I believe it's the last week in May, and I'll be sending out Zoom information for that soon. Okay, and then we're not really providing legal information here today, but just typically, obviously legal advice depends upon the specific facts of each situation, which you can only get from having a consultation with legal counsel. Okay, so without further ado, I'm going to pass it off to my colleague, Carolyn McQuaid, so she can talk about our Suffolk County Pro Bono project.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much, Sharon. Could you advance the slide, please? Wanted to thank everyone for coming today and for your interest in pro bono. We are very proud of our unit. We are quite a team, and my paralegal is Nancy Rangel. Her information is on that slide as well. Just a word of caution, if you would. The referral number for pro bono screening is on the top there. That's 3315. So if you're looking to refer a case to pro bono, please use that number. Please do not share my extension with everyone, and don't put it on the bathroom walls or anything like that, because as you can well imagine, we have a lot of calls on a daily basis. So I wouldn't be able to do any work whatsoever if every single pro bono applicant were to call me. So that's why that number is in bold, 3315. If you have a client that you think might be eligible, you can always shoot me an email and ask me if you think that they will be, but probably the easiest thing is just have the person leave a message on that extension and we will take it from there. So yeah, that's the best way to go about it. Just give out the 3315. And that's, an extension here at Law Services. So the first part of those digits are 631-232-2400. So the major areas of assistance that pro bono does is we try to fill in the gaps that the other units in law services do not handle. So as most of you already know, we have a welfare unit, we have an HIV and AIDS unit, we have housing. Those are kind of our big, but we also have, as Sharon has already discussed with everyone, a list of all the other interesting new units. I just heard today that we have a loan forgiveness, education loan forgiveness unit. I had no idea. So, things are always changing, always great to check the website, but think of pro bono as like the in-between. So that's why most people don't know about us, because, law services is kind of known for those big issues. But the things we do, and all of these are for income eligible people. We don't give our income guidelines out, but we also have to be very cognizant. We cannot compete with the private bar because, there's many people in Suffolk County, and they all want free legal services. So, in order to be eligible for us, you have to be impoverished. And that means low income and low asset. So every single person that comes to pro bono is screened for financial eligibility. And this is something that even law services workers may not realize. Our other units, it's a verbal screening, but in pro bono, at least in Suffolk, I think things are a little different in Nassau. We have to get financial documentation of our client, proof of indigency. So we have to get bank records, we have to get tax returns, we have to get pay stubs. We really have to do due diligence before anyone can be served by us. So it is a bit of a process. So I will tell folks that, there is a verbal screening that's done over the phone. And then after that, there is a packet that gets sent out. And the packet is about 10 pages. But in addition to the packet, because I think pretty much every unit has an intake packet, the people who are found to be eligible through Suffolk Pro Bono have to provide us with actual financial documentation, pay stubs, award letters, the whole Megillah 9 yards to establish their indigency. So the types of divorces we handle are basically indigent defendants. And we do have some attorneys who are doing uncontested divorces right now. For a while, we were not able to provide this service, but Unfortunately, Toro did a lot of uncontested for us, but they lost their family law unit. So, but now we do have a private firm that is partnering with us to provide uncontested divorces. But those folks have to be truly uncontested. So in other words, that means, I don't think that my spouse is going to fight with me on any of these issues. That is not uncontested. So uncontested is somebody who has discussed all the issues with their spouse and they have an agreement with regard to every single item of possible negotiation in a divorce. So equitable distribution, child custody visitation, all of that stuff has to have been discussed. So even for folks who haven't been together for a really long time, if they have an asset and they think their spouse is going to agree that it should not go to them and it should go to the person seeking an uncontested divorce, that's not going to do it. So, we have to be very careful. As you know, folks can't have liquid assets to be eligible for our unit. However, you can own a house with your spouse. That's not something that's going to make you ineligible for our services. So if there's a home in common, or if there's a pension, that wouldn't disqualify someone for services. And that issue hasn't been discussed about how that is going to be split in a divorce. That's not uncontested. So uncontested divorces, indigent defendants, and then for victims of domestic abuse, we will do both sides of a divorce. But let me just skip through and tell you all the issues that I'm going to cover, and then we'll get back to any more particulars about divorce. And if anyone has any questions, you can put them in the chat and I can answer them as we go along. Otherwise, just save your questions for the end. So divorce, bankruptcy, child support is advice only. We don't do representation in that unit. Could we just go back to the list? Wills is something that we will do. Guardianship is 17A only, and I'll talk about that when we get to it, and name change. So if you could advance to the next slide, I think I've covered pretty much everything I'm going to talk about on divorce. So with regard to divorces, I need to go back one. Folks who have already been represented by an attorney, I cannot place with a volunteer. I know that sounds very unusual, but that is really the standard in the entire country. So in other words, volunteers who are willing to take a divorce, which is very hard to find, because as we all know, a divorce could literally take years. So this is my hardest placement, and it's a challenge. Not every divorce is challenging. Some folks can get it resolved relatively quickly, but I have had volunteers who have literally put hundreds and hundreds of hours in on a single case. And most volunteers aren't willing to do that. So anyone who has had an attorney and has run out of money, even if you are financially eligible for us, if you've already had representation, I cannot place you with a volunteer. So it's a very difficult rule to live by, but it's the reality that a volunteer is not going to take a case where the person has already been represented. And it's mostly because it's so difficult. And a lot of times the litigants feel like, oh, well, my other attorney was willing to do X, Y, and Z, and why are you not willing to do it? So I think that's a big part of the resistance that volunteers have to representing people who have already had counsel. I talked about uncontested. We will do for folks who are victims of domestic abuse, whether you're a defendant or a plaintiff, we will try to place you. If there is no domestic abuse, then it is defendants only. We do have a modest means program that I do want to mention. That is not run by us. That does not come through Nassau Suffolk Law Services, but we do the financial screening for them. So if you have a client that can pay a bit of money for a divorce, it's only $1,500 for a divorce through the modest means panel. So if you have a client that is willing to pay that, then that is the way to go. And if you're a defendant, you're being sued by someone for divorce, then it's only $1,000. So, and that's for the first 10 hours. And if it's more complicated and you're going to be spending more than 10 hours, then you're going to continue to pay $100 an hour. Now, there is financial eligibility guidelines for the modest means program as well, but they're less draconian than ours. So ours are really for truly, very, very low income folks. The modest means panel is a bit more generous. Next slide, please. Okay, so now we're on to bankruptcy. I don't see any questions on divorces, so I'm going to keep going. Bankruptcies cannot be filed in less than 8 years. So, and we are only doing Chapter 7 bankruptcies, so that's a personal bankruptcy. We don't get involved with any kind of corporate bankruptcy or any restructuring or anything like that. So the person can't have filed in the past 8 years, and they can't have used their credit card in the past 6 months. There are people that keep up to date on their credit cards, and they don't want to discharge their credit card debt. But when you file for bankruptcy, the credit companies are going to notify your bank that holds your credit card. So chances are that you're probably going to lose your credit card. And obviously having a bankruptcy does reduce your credit score. So, that is an issue for some people. We don't see it very much. But in order to qualify for our unit, you have to have at least $5,000 worth of dischargeable debt. And there are some debts that, can't be discharged. Student loans couldn't be discharged, but now we have a student loan discharge unit. So, obviously that they can be discharged in certain circumstances, but
it's not through bankruptcy though. It's different. So just to make clarification.
Yes. But yeah, typically the cases we're looking for do not involve alimony, student loan, child support, or property taxes that are less than 3 years past due. Next slide. And in terms of equity with regard to a bankruptcy, you can't have more than $170,000 of equity in your home. So that disqualifies a lot of people on Long Island because home prices are so high. And also for your car, you can't have equity in your car if you own it for more than $4,000. And if you want to keep your car, then an exception can be carved out. If you don't own it, you can kind of make an exception of your car payments. That is something that can be done. You can't have transferred money to your friends or family in the past year if you're looking to declare bankruptcy. And we only handle bankruptcies where there's a married a couple that are both willing to file. If you're married and your spouse isn't willing to file, then that's not someone that's eligible for our unit. Next slide, please. Guardianship, I did want to let folks know that we don't do Article 81s. We only do 17As. So 17A guardianships are people who are profoundly disabled. They typically have an IQ of below 60. So we're talking about people that, really are never going to be functioning adults, unfortunately. We typically only do guardianships for parents, grandparents. We only do uncontested guardianships. So if there's another person that's looking to be the guardian and it's going to be contested, then that's not something we can place. The guardian has to be a suitable person to be a guardian. That pretty much covers guardianships. Unless anybody has any questions, we can go to the next slide. Wills, we typically don't do very many wills because for the most part, folks who have an asset that they're trying to protect aren't eligible for us. But we occasionally do have an impoverished person that owns a home and we will try to place that case. But if they are looking to leave their home to a child, typically, who can afford an attorney, we try to talk them into that, because obviously if you're going to inherit a house, you can typically maybe afford an attorney to make that happen. So it's not always the case, but a lot of times it is the case. And, you know, it is hard to place a will when the distributee is going to be walking around with a house and they have plenty of money. So that is a little bit tricky, but for the most part, we don't really do a lot of wills. We do sometimes do guardianship, standby guardians. So if somebody is sick and has a child or several children and you know, needs to have their intentions established, that is something we can help with also. Next slide, please. Name changes, we just started doing these, and really the only barrier to name change is if the person is you know, has a nefarious reason that they want to change their name. I haven't seen this come up, but you know, that's the only time when we wouldn't be able to place a name change. And also, you know, obviously we are not going to do the name change if they're eligible for another unit through law services, if, you know, they can fit into the guidelines of another unit. I think that's it for that slide. I think that might be the end. I don't think I have anything else. So if there's any questions, I'm sticking around and you can ask me or throw your questions in the chat. Thank you so much. And if you ever have a question, you know, feel free to shoot me an email and, you know, we will try to work it out. But if you know of someone that you think eligible, the easiest and fastest is just give them the 3315 extension. Thanks so much, everybody. Have a great day.
Thanks so much. So I'm just gonna, before we get to questions for pro bono, I'm gonna let Community Legal Help Project, Rashika Hadarachi, do her presentation since we're short on time, and then we'll do any questions afterwards. Okay, thanks so much. All right, take it off.
Thanks, Sharon. I'll be very quick. Community Legal Help Project was created through the New York State Permanent Access of Justice. Suffolk County used us as a role model for the whole state, and since its inception, it has really taken off. Currently, Community Legal Help Project does not have any income or any immigration status requirements. We don't care if you're a citizen or not. We don't care about your income or not when we give advice or to people who call us. Currently, we have attorneys in family, elder law, foreclosure, bankruptcy, and criminal who will give advice and counsel to people. I think that's the next slide, Sharon, if I'm correct. Yes, those are the topics that we do give advice and information on. We will assist people with filling out and reviewing their petitions before courts. The main thing, though, that we have is that you have to be a Suffolk County resident. We do not provide any legal representation. And if you currently have an attorney, we will not even facilitate further conversations with you. We have our own hotline, which is different from Nassau Suffolk Law Services, which is the 631-822-3272 number. And people call us all the time from all different areas, and we try to place them. That's basically all for CLHP. Any questions? I'm here to take them. Those are the libraries that we're at.
Yeah, Rashika, can you just go over about what we do to advertise every month?
So thanks, Sharon, for the question. So every month we send a flyer to the libraries. We're currently at the Brentwood Library every Tuesday from the hours of 2 to 5 p.m. We're at the Middle Country Public Library in Center Ridge on Thursdays, the first 3 Thursdays of the month from 3 to 6. So every month we send out a flyer, which is being shown currently, and it lists what type of attorneys will be present and what type of areas of law that will be will be there to answer questions for. Come May, we will be starting a trial at Patchogue Library on the last Thursday of the month. Our flyers that have all the details are available at the different libraries' website pages and their social media pages, along with NASA Suffolk Law Services social media pages. And those are the listings of where you can find them. Questions?
Yeah, so I also send out in my advocacy tips links to whatever the next month's library dates are and what an attorney, what topics an attorney will be available to meet with clients about. But Rashika, do you take walk-ins?
We do take walk-ins. We do prefer appointments, but if we get walk-ins, we try to answer their questions. A lot of times people are coming to community legal help because they just don't understand the process of where they're going, whether or not it even is a legal question, and or if it's a legal issue, and we're able to help them with that.
Thank you. All right, any questions for Rashika or any questions about the Community Legal Help Project?
I have a question.
Who is
Yes.
that?
Hi,
Catherine?
this is Catherine. Hi. I was frantically typing in the chat box. Hi, my name is Catherine Montezam. I am the Assistant Director at the Riverhead Free Library. And we have been very interested in being part of this legal help project. We'd like to be one of the sites. We certainly have the patron population, that would be interested in this program. Who could I contact about that?
So, I mean, I know that a lot of libraries are definitely want us in their libraries, and we would love to be everywhere. The problem is that we don't have enough funding or resources. So really, you should be speaking with, the courts. The courts that the courts is the one who the access to justice. They're the ones who got this program started. So if there's more funding and more personnel.
So how do you determine which libraries get the program? Because we have a pretty high need population here in Riverhead, and we're also at the juncture of the east, we're right in a great spot, for the East End. We're sort of centrally located for the East End, and we have a large patron base. So I'm just wondering what the criteria is, and if you want, who should I contact specifically? Because I'd be happy.
Well, Catherine, if you'd like, you can email me separately.
Oh, okay.
But yeah, it's just, this is still a fairly new project that was through the access.
Okay,
But yeah, you could definitely email me, and I can put you in contact with the person who, unfortunately, the original people aren't there anymore, but there's still the court personnel who are involved now.
Okay, what office is that from the court?
It's just the Access to Justice Committee.
Okay. Okay, I will definitely email you. And yeah, I was just interested, what the criteria is, how you go about selecting a location, what it's based on.
Yeah, so the original the Middle Country Library and Center Reach and Brentwood, those are the two original ones. So it wasn't necessarily those are the ones who are really more involved in the first part.
Right. And how were they, how did that come to be?
I wasn't involved back then.
Oh, okay. All right. Okay.
I can't really go into all of the history.
Right.
But yeah, they were part of the original when it first.
Okay. So I'll just reach out to you. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Okay. So if you do have, let's see, there's one question for you, Carolyn. Let's see. Tammy asked, I have a question about guardianship, adult with disability, but mom has no income, wants to change guardian on his papers as his grandparent has died. So is Tammy still here?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
Hi, Tammy. I reached out to you. It sounds like a very specific question. I mean, we can get into more specifics if you want, but I'm happy to talk to you privately if that's easier, so we can get into the real specifics of that particular issue.
Okay. I have your email, so I'll email you.
Yeah. Yeah, or you can call me directly. My extension is there. I can give you my phone number.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Yeah, no problem. Absolutely.
All right. Thank you so much.
Did anyone else have any general questions? I just put in a response to Monica's question about what the difference is between community legal help and pro bono. For certain types of things, we are very similar. Like, for example, in child support, I have a volunteer that will give child support advice. So basically, he should be working at the Community Legal Help Project because that's kind of what he does. But you know, we screen the callers, and if they're eligible, then they can speak to Jeff about the specifics of their case. But now if the person is over income, then I would send them to the Community Legal Help Project. And again, they could speak to someone about the specifics of their case, but that would be through the library project.
Right.
Now, but pro bono also provides direct representation one-on-one, which Community Legal Help Project does not do. So that's the big distinction. So for people who qualify, bankruptcy and divorces and some wills, and the name change, you will actually get an attorney that's going to represent you, which is the big difference between pro bono and community legal help, which is going to be advice only. I mean, they're going to talk to you, the attorneys that work at community legal help, but pro bono is direct representation.
Caroline, I just want to amend what you said in that if they qualify with our Toro partners, they will actually represent them. For example, with the bankruptcy and our senior projects and our landlord tenant, they will do actual direct representations if they qualify for the Toro projects. Toro clinics, I mean.
Right. So so community legal help project is, you know, it's not direct representation unless we can make a referral to someone who does do direct representation. But it's really half-hour consultations, you know, to provide guidance. Maybe someone needs guidance on how to file a petition or, you know, legal information, a question about child support, because really it's just a half hour. So it's really limited to that. Although sometimes we do have clients who return repeatedly for follow-ups, but yeah, it's really just the legal information that we're giving out, whereas pro bono, you're actually being connected with a volunteer attorney who will be providing direct representation, with the exception of child support and 17A guardianships, which is more pro se assistance. Okay. Okay, so I got a lot of people asking for the presentation. And let's see, anything else? I think that's about it.
Hi.
Hi, Elizabeth.
Yes, this is Elizabeth from Catholic Charities. How about like on immigration services? I read in the something about that. So do you offer any kind of services, immigration services?
So the Community Legal Help Project does have immigration attorney volunteers that come in and we'll give them advice on how to file, or if they're looking for status updates on where they could find their status updates. But it is based upon volunteer attorneys. We are always looking for more volunteers to come join our community legal help to assist. So we are looking currently for family court, family law attorneys, elder law, immigration attorneys.
Right, because we did have Empire Justice Center was coming in to give consultations on immigration, but unfortunately they'll be stopping, I believe, in May, correct, Rashika?
That is correct.
Yeah, so we have some new volunteer attorneys who will be coming in who are private practice, but obviously the more the merrier.
All right, thank you.
Mm-hmm. All right, any other questions? Okay, well, thanks so much, everyone, for joining us. We hope to see you in the future. And if you do need a copy of the presentation, once again, feel free to email me, scampo@nsls.legal. And thank you so much, Carolyn and Rashika, for giving us information on both of your projects.